quorum.
You know anything about the Microsoft? Oop.
Right, am I muted now? Okay.
We're on the air.
All right, we're just waiting for Jean before we can start. She was going to zoom in.
Ooh, I got in.
All right. All right, good evening. In accordance with the requirement of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel and on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg YouTube channel after the meeting. The meeting is held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Note that although we do have remote attendance, if the video does go down, I guess we will lose quorum and the meeting will have to end. We do have one member, Jean Russell, virtual tonight. To join on the Zoom, you can go to lunenburgma.gov, go to the calendar, and it will have the link to the Zoom or the phone number as well. So just to start, we are now a committee of 4 members. Evan Waters resigned over the weekend, and Dave Passios, I think a couple weeks prior to that, so we're on a skeleton shift for now. We do have a talent bank and a finance committee, selection committee meeting, appointment committee on Tuesday, so maybe we'll get a 5th candidate. Yeah, we have 1 candidate for that. So with that, I'll call the meeting to order and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, by way of announcements, just like I said, we're down to 4 members. Hopefully we'll get a 5th member. But if there's a couple more members of the town who would like to join the committee, it's pretty important for us, I think, going into this year. We have an interim town manager whose term kind of ends, January? We're in the midst of hiring a new town manager, so it will be a process that will require a full board and members who are diligent and want to help to bring a balanced budget to town meeting in May, which is, kind of our primary responsibility. Given all that, I do think the focus of this committee over the next few weeks will be on special town meeting, which happens the second weekend in November. Oop. Got an open mic on Dave.
Dave's here.
All right, with that, are there any other announcements? Any public comment from the public? Okay.
So I haven't got my hand up, but just like to make a quick comment if I could.
Yes, go ahead, Dave.
Yep, Dave Passios, president of Presidential Highway, Jefferson, New Hampshire, formerly 56 Whiting Street, Lunenburg. Surprised to see the committee down to the numbers it's at, but hopefully you guys will rebound quickly. Just had 2 comments for this evening. Haven't totally unplugged myself from Lunenburg, but one thing that it may sound a little picky, but the draft warrant is listed as a fall town meeting warrant. There are no provisions in the charter for a second town meeting anytime during the fiscal year. That needs to be officially a special town meeting. It could say fall special town meeting. But that was debated quite exclusively during the last charter review, and it was decided they did not want more than one actual town meeting because of the different requirements for votes, so on and so forth, in special town meetings. Excuse me. So I just brought that up just as something I spotted on the draft. The other thing, you guys might want to take a good look at the revolving account that's being created for the Council on Aging. It sounds like, and nothing against anybody that's handling money there, but it doesn't clearly state what type of a revolving account that is based on Mass General law or anything like that. It looks like a blanket spend it on anything you want type of revolving account. A little concerning to me, but that's up to you guys how you feel about it at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other public, so with that, is there any public comment from the committee?
Just to say thank you to Evan for serving and all his knowledge and time that he put in to the committee. It's greatly appreciated.
I also would like to thank Evan. It's a very tough job to be the chairman of this committee, and he did a great job. Also, I didn't have a chance to say goodbye to Dave. I wasn't around the last couple of weeks, so also on his passing a few weeks ago, that's, two sets of shoes that will be hard to fill. But
Yep.
hopefully we will, and anybody out there who wants to fill them, please come aboard.
I would also like to thank Evan for his leadership, and I understand his sadness at having to leave, but I wish him well in his future endeavors.
All right, and I was also not present at the last couple meetings, so I would like to thank Dave Passios, who I've known for a long time, and we've had many a spirited debate, and whether it be in meetings or just friendship over the years. So thank you, Dave, for all you did for the town and all your capacities, and I hope you're settling in the New Hampshire. And then for Evan, same thing. Evan and I joined this committee right around the same time. I am very sad for him to go, and I'm good. He did a great job, both as a member of and then stepping into the the chairman role. So I would like to thank Evan for that, and hopefully we see him around town. I'm sure we will. And with that, I think that's all I have for public comment. So thank you. So next we had Finance Director report. I don't see Ezzy here, but Manager, do you have anything you wanted to report?
Nothing of note, apologies. Nothing of note, we will be reviewing the proposed new growth and final assessment values between the assessment team next week. We hope that as a result of some final action to be taken by the Board of Assessors Wednesday night, to be able to close the books and submit everything to DOR for certification of free cash within the next 2 weeks. We're about 2 weeks behind where I'd like to be, but we're still in decent shape and expect to have the classification hearing early November.
Okay. Any questions? All right, so I didn't do a lot of work on the agenda other than to take what was there last time, do a couple updates in new business and repost it. I was sort of surprised on Sunday when I read the email about Evan. But with that, I do think the two critical things for us to focus on, today and maybe over the next couple of meetings is reorganization, first of all, and then working our way through our recommendations as it relates to the special town meeting warrant. So first topic I'd like to bring up is reorganization. As vice chair, I definitely step in as for the absence of a chair. I guess I'm willing to continue doing that, but I am pretty busy at work, so if anyone else wants to take on the chair position, I would definitely entertain discussion on that and be supportive of doing so. Regardless of any of that, I do think we need to have a chair and a vice chair because there may be, sometimes when I'm unable to attend and I'd need a vice chair to take over. I know we might get a new member next week. It's probably unlikely that we will get someone that raises their hand that can kind of step into the chairman role. So I think it's amongst the four of us who would need to take those roles, so. So I'll open it up to the committee as to how we want to accomplish this.
I think obviously you as vice chair, obviously is probably the best choice. I understand you have other, work and family and all that, but for myself, although I'm retired, we have family issues that I was out a couple times for some family things and also travel. So I will, as over the last couple of years, I've missed a couple due to travel. I try to make it remote as Gene is today, but I don't have the capacity, I think, right now to do what Evan has done and others, so I don't think I could do that. And my wife told me I can't do that. It wasn't threatening, it was just a strong suggestion.
Jay, any interest as the senior member?
The chair? No.
All right.
I'm full-time, and I have some family stuff to deal with, but that's a lot of work. I'm willing to help you out, but just to be chair, not my thing.
All right, and Jean, any interest?
Not to be chair. If you assumed that position, I would be interested in being the vice chair.
Okay.
So, Gene, did you say you would want to be vice chair, or you could be vice chair?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Right, and then we would also need I think we need to fill the clerk position as well.
I'll do the clerk.
Okay. All right, so we will, I guess, by de facto, I am chairman. I don't,
Yeah. It is what it is. We just do what we can do.
Yeah.
So we get more members.
yeah, okay.
And obviously, if you need help, that's, we'll all be here
Yeah.
to help, obviously.
Yep.
It's especially where the town is right now with interims everywhere and a short staff here, and also with the things coming down the road, and the budget time is coming up, in a few months, so, and we had a difficult last couple of years, so, I'm not expecting it to be a easy, road this year, budget-wise, so I think, everybody has to pull together, and again, if we can get a couple more people on the committee, that is just, more hands, for the amount of work and more minds together that will help, so I think, whatever we can, whatever I can do, I will be more than happy to help.
Okay. Yeah, I have no problem with running the meetings, and maybe even getting the agendas out. I think anything that happens during the day can be particularly challenging for me, but I think as a team, we can, I will be relying on others, hopefully, to get us through this. So I guess with that, I would entertain a motion or motions.
So do we want to do it individually, or do we want to do it just as?
You can do it as
the
one if
platform?
that's what we
I
want.
recommend, why don't you do it, since you're not going to, recommend the chairman, the vice chairman, and myself as the clerk, so you can, that way,
Well, yeah, I moved Chris to be president.
President, chairman.
Chairperson. Gene for vice chair, and Tom for clerk.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussions? All right, we'll have to do a roll call vote. So Jean,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Jay,
Aye.
all right, and I for myself. All right, so we're reorganized. All right, so then the next topic is the first meeting, I believe, I don't think we discussed it much last time, on the warrant articles. I think some of these are probably in position to introduce tonight. And then I know at a minimum, having spoken with the chairman of the Parks Commission, they have a meeting going on right now. They're asking for a presentation for their warrant article, or articles, I guess. Hopefully it's just one, at our next meeting, so it's probably going to be on the 24th. And maybe we will also schedule the 24th as our public hearing, and when we make recommendations. Does that timeline work for you?
I won't, sorry about that. I won't be able to publish it in the booklet is the only problem. So we'd have to put the Finance Committee recommendations as deferred, and then we'd have a single sheet that we could insert as people came into the meeting.
Okay.
If I can change the publishing schedule and still meet that 14-day deadline that we have to get these things out, I would prefer to do that.
Okay, the hard part we have is by charter, it states that we need to have a public hearing on any moneyed articles.
Sure.
And we need time to post that.
Absolutely.
So,
We'll
I
work
don't
with you
see
to
a
try to make
workaround.
something work, one way or the other.
okay. I feel this is going to be the year of making it work. So, all right, with that, can I turn it over to you to introduce the?
Sure. We have, subject to final review by council, what we think is now the final warrant. First, I have still some entry and transition issues for myself, so I'd been calling it a fall town meeting, but the town clerk brought it to my attention to address Mr. Passio's comment, and we do now header it as a special town meeting. The first warrant article is an authorization to pay late bills and fund that authorization. So there's three elements to it. The first is the authorization to pay a late bill. The second is to appropriate $4,180 for that late bill. And then we're going to meet that appropriation by transferring from the overlay surplus account. The Board of Assessors last week did certify $25,000 as excess overlay, and so that now sits there reserved for appropriation. And between this article and one other, we would pretty much use all of those dollars.
Okay.
And that's a 9/10 vote because it's a late bill.
All right, any questions from the committee on that one?
What was the bill for?
Do you know what the bill was for?
I'll have to get that to you. I'm afraid I don't know exactly
Usually
what
there's
it's
a few of
for.
them, I think usually, historically, there's always like a couple of bills. Usually.
If Massachusetts, even if we could, have till July 30th to close the books, but unfortunately, it's pretty common across the state.
Okay.
But we'll get you what the actual invoice is for.
Is it one bill for?
Yes, it's one bill.
Because that's a significant amount of money.
I'm sorry, what?
That's a significant amount of money for one bill.
Okay, any other questions? So we'll, just next time, if we can have an answer to that. All right, Article 2.
So Article 2 is a request from the school committee. When the state budget was finally settled, there was $31,882 more appropriated to the Chapter 70 account, and they have asked that we then appropriate that to them so that they may use that. This would take a 2/3 vote. Your charter requires that appropriation articles at a special town meeting be approved by 2/3.
Any questions or discussion on that one?
Have they said what they want to use the money for, or, I mean, it's their money to use, obviously. it's Chapter 70.
They have not given me any idea that there's a specific usage for it.
It's not specifically for the schools, they're asking for it, but Chapter 70 is not just for the school.
We can certainly ask them to attend your public hearing and provide you with further explanation if you'd like.
Yeah, I think that would be good, or at least an idea of how they would see that affecting, or how they would fold that into their existing budget and what we discussed at length over the spring. All right, any other questions or comments on that one?
Nope.
All right, Article 3.
Article 3 is the Lunenburg Mart Connect Transportation Program. I appeared before you on that, I believe, 2 meetings ago, and you generously transferred $5,000 to bridge September 30 until the special town meeting. I'll try not to refer to it as the fall town meeting again. This would, we believe, based upon ridership, of course, get us through the balance of the fiscal year. Now, at that time, some member, I can't remember whom, asked us to explore whether or not we could extend the 20-mile range to get to, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it.
Emerson,
Emerson.
yeah.
And the answer is yes.
Okay.
From any corner in Lunenburg, people can get a ride to Emerson. That'll be the only institution outside that 20-mile limit, but any corner in Lunenburg to Emerson. So
Okay.
I'm pleased that Mark was able to work with us on that, and I'm pleased to be able to report that to you this evening.
Okay, yeah, no, I appreciate that as well, and extend, at least for the new chair, our appreciation to Mark for doing that. Any questions on Article 3 from I think we heard a lot about this a few weeks ago, and okay. Article 4?
Article 4 is the adoption of certain provisions of state statute relative to the prudent investor rule. I believe you heard about that perhaps 3 meetings ago. I can't recall
Yep.
exactly. I know that Ezekiel and I can't remember the fellow from Bartholomew spoke to you at length, and this would be a majority vote.
Okay. Any questions? I think at the time, we did recommend, even to you, to pursue this, so.
Yes.
So I think in general, we're supportive, but any questions? All right, Jean, just speak up if you have any too. I'll be looking for you, but,
Thank you.
okay. Article 5?
Article 5, I truthfully can't speak to at length at all. Comes from the planning board. If you'd like, I will have the land use director attend your public hearing. It goes on quite a bit at length, and I can't speak to it intelligently at all. I'm not even sure if the finance committee makes recommendations on zoning articles in this community, and some they do and some they don't.
I think in the past, this is like the 3rd or 4th time this one has come forward.
I've heard that.
So I think in the past, we've said no financial impact associated with it, but, all right, is there any questions, and do you think we need the land director or anyone from planning to go over this again?
Well, I guess I'd just like to know if there's any kind of financial impact that should be considered. I mean, I'm sure this is mostly regulation driven.
There would be no financial impact on this organization.
Okay.
Be some staff time, but I mean, I can't give you, there's no way to quantify what
Yeah.
the financial cost might be.
Okay.
Okay,
Gone through at least.
Well.
it's at least the 3rd, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of language.
So that brings us, after I don't know, maybe perhaps 4, even 5 pages, to Article 6, which is down towards the bottom of the page. And that is to establish a revolving fund for the Council on Aging Meals Program. Now, currently, the monies that are collected are retained at the Council on Aging, and they're then used over the next couple days to buy more supplies. We do not question I want to be real clear, we do not question whatsoever the integrity of how that is happening. Unfortunately, it doesn't meet, while we have great people, that does not meet the test of statute or good accounting. So what we would do would be to have these deposits into the revolving fund instead, and then we'd have to set up some accounts with Hannaford's, whatever their vendors are, and get those bills, and then pay them out of this account. Now, the way that this works is there are several parts to this. The first is to amend the code itself. And the monies can only be used for the purchase of food, supplies, and services. So it can buy actual food, plates, paper plates, silverware, any of those kinds of supplies, cooking oil related to the preparation of the meals, and then the preparation and distribution of the meals, so the styrofoam boxes on the Meals on Wheels that get delivered and the like. If there's concern that that language isn't restrictive enough, that I could use much earlier so I can get it into the actual warrant that gets published. The second part of this is that you have to annually set a spending limit, and the estimate that was given to us was $16,000 for I believe, the balance of the fiscal year. Then in the annual town meeting, you would set a new limit, just as you do for every one of your revolving accounts. The only wrinkle here is that the statute requires that all revolving funds be set up by July 1 of a fiscal year. You can set additional funds up during the course of the year, but we've got to be able to provide a written explanation to the Department of Revenue of where those monies are coming from. And the town accountant, finance director, has provided me with that memorandum, certified that, and we're very confident the DOR will see exactly why we're doing this. So we don't anticipate any problems whatsoever. We did just want to make you aware of that wrinkle.
Okay. Is there like a, in the parks, there was like a 53D and a...
Did you want to go on to parks?
No. My question is there an equivalent number letter associated with this?
Yes,
account?
53E and a half.
Does it say that?
It doesn't, because we're adding to an existing section of statute, your bylaws, but what I can do is put it into the summary, or
Okay.
make sure that it's clear in the draft.
Okay, that would make sense. And
Sure.
then by adopting this, does this add any burden to the staff or drastically change in any way they do things?
Not really. I mean, the staff will now have to, at the Adult Activity Center, the Eagle House, is it? Prepare a cash turnover sheet, just as any other department does. That comes up to the treasurer. She signs one copy, a copy goes to the accountant, copies with the treasurer, copy goes back to the department. So now the treasurer deposits that into the accounts. We'll work with the COA to set up their accounts, and instead of going someplace and paying cash, they'll get an invoice, and then they will have to process that invoice against the revolving fund. So there is a little bit of work, and of course, it's not a lot, but everything adds up. So there is a little bit of work involved in doing it this way.
Okay, but this is generally the best practice across.
It is.
Okay, makes sense.
And I'll make sure that there's a reference to the 53E and a half. I just want to take a squint back at the bylaw to see how you've structured that.
Okay. And then, if I may, hey, Dave Passios, you may want to look out your lights. I'm here, out your window. I'm hearing the northern lights are visible in the White Mountains. My phone's blowing up over here. But I interject. All right, any other questions on Article 5? Article 6, I mean, sorry.
Is the 16,000, is that what passes through the account over the year, or is that?
That's what they anticipate would pass through
Okay.
over the balance of the year.
What are they expecting for a full year? Do you know?
I'll have to get that number from Sue Doherty for you.
And is 16,000 then the limit that could be in at any given time, or?
No, it's the amount that can be expended. So they can build that up to whatever it is.
Okay,
And let's say that something happens during the course of the year. Let me use a different department where perhaps they add another program or something, and they discover that they need to go higher. They can, during the course of the year, come to the Finance Committee and the Select Board, explain why they want to increase the spending limit, and get authorization to do that from the two bodies.
Okay.
But you do both have to agree.
okay.
But I will clarify with Sue Doherty the amount that passes through this and confirm that this is the balance of the year, full year. I'll get that for you by the time of your hearing.
All right, any other questions on Article 6? It's pretty straightforward. All right, Article 7, I think was a recommendation from us, but why don't you bring us through Article 7?
Sure. So there's, in statute, a revolving fund called 53D for parks departments. That's what you've been working with. Now, over the years, the requirement for the 53D revolving fund is that at the end of the year, you look at the balance, and anything that's above $10,000 is supposed to go to the general fund. For whatever reason, that has now built up to somewhere in the neighborhood of $75,000 plus or minus. So the thought is to convert to a 53E and a half revolving fund, which does not have a cap on how much can be in it at any given time. The cap is how much you can spend. Now, you can't spend more than's there, but you can't spend more than the cap. So it's an either-or kind of situation. So we got a couple choices. Keep bumping along, and that's something that frankly I'm not comfortable with. I don't think this committee's
Right.
comfortable with, finance director, chair. I think we're all in general agreement that we don't want
Yeah.
to continue that. Or we do the conversion. So the idea is to create a 53E and a half revolving fund. And you can see all of the fees that would go into it, user fees, charges, rental fees, any receipt received as a result of the operation of the recreational programs and facilities. So if there's a rental for Marshall Park for an event or a swim program, anything there goes into this. Then there's the limit on what it can be spent on. Payments to part-time employees, if that's what's chosen to do, and I believe that's what you're doing now. Full-time employees, and you don't have to pay the full-time salary, you can pay a portion of it. Material and outside vendors, contractors, you bring in an instructor for a program, that kind of thing. Now, the restriction on the expenses is this. If they pay a part-time employee, they must also pay their Medicare and associated benefit costs out of this fund. And if they pay a full-time employee, but they pay them proportionately, so much from the general fund, and so much from the revolving fund, we have to look at that. And is that 50-50, 60-40, whatever it is. And then you have to look at their benefits and pay 40%, whatever that percentage is, we pay those benefits as well. So that the compensation paid out of the fund has the benefits paid out of the fund, and we don't have the general fund covering that. The second piece of this is to set the FY25 spending limit at $77,000. I'm not exactly sure how the Parks Commission picked that, but we will know by the time we get in front of you for the public hearing on the 24th. So I'm going to just make myself that note. Once it is established, now, you need to understand that when you pass a bylaw at the town meeting, other than your salary administration plan, that has to go to the Attorney General's office. They have up to 60 days to review it. Sometimes they'll ask for a little more time. This time of year, they're usually a little bit faster because they don't have as many things coming at them. And then the town clerk has to post it, and once that's done, it's effective. So once that is effective, we would then take the money that's in the 53D account and transfer it to the 53E and a half. We haven't specified a number because we don't know exactly what that number will be. They'll continue to spend until they can transfer it, and there will continue to be some payments coming in, and there will continue to be some interest added. Now, once that money's transferred, the fourth item is an automatic revocation of your acceptance of 53D. So now it goes away, it doesn't stay on the books, and dissolving the revolving fund completely. So now, accounting-wise, in the next fiscal year, that goes off the books as well. It would have to be on the books for the closing of FY '25, but after that, that goes away. Now, two wrinkles. Same wrinkle I mentioned earlier, you can't establish revolving funds in the middle of the year unless you can show you have a source of money. If DOR says, what's the source of money? Does someone see that, wait a minute, this isn't supposed to have happened, and you have to send that money back to the general fund. There really isn't any way around it. I asked town council, can we just forego it and seed the revolving fund with an appropriation? And he was like, no, because the law is very clear on what you can put in there, and an initial appropriation is not one of the things you can put in it. So we made the Parks Chair aware of that in our meeting earlier this week, and I want to make the board aware of that risk as well. I don't think it's a great risk, but we believe we owe it to you to make sure that you understand the risk.
I do believe that that fund is fairly low right now, as it typically is after a lot of the beach personnel get paid out of that. So.
This is the number I was given, but we will double check it. And
What was the number you were given?
I'm sorry, what?
What was the number?
77,000, 75,000.
But that's the max at a given year, or that's the current?
That's what they believe's in it right now.
Oh, okay.
I'll double check with
Okay.
Ezzy, and we'll have that for you on the 24th.
Okay. Okay. All right, I know we talked about this a few meetings back. Any questions from the board on this one? All right, yeah, this one has been actually talked about for several years. I know that for many reasons, so I'm glad that this is the direction we're taking on it.
Article 8, we'll be adding to the draft. We left it out that it was submitted by the Architectural Preservation District Committee or Commission, I'm not sure which that is. And they're asking the town meeting to vote to request the select board to prepare a report and present the same to the 2025 annual town meeting that would have the intent of offering the building for sale or long-term lease. And you can see the 6 bullet points there, which would include a consultation with the school department and others. I see a typo or two, and we'll be going, through this as to make sure everything's all cleaned up. And there is a summary statement written by the APDC.
Okay. I know a couple meetings, select board meetings back, there was a discussion on this. Nathan Lockwood gave. So if anyone wants to see the details from it, that is available. But in lieu of that, is there any questions from the board relative to this one?
So what we would do is, if this passes, we'll have the Land Use Department take a look at zoning, and based upon their knowledge, prepare a sketch plan that shows what might be done, meet with schools, meet with others, have a public hearing perhaps, but public meeting anyways.
Yeah.
And then present that report to the town meeting in the spring of 2025. There would then, depending upon the actions that are needed, there might be some survey monies that are needed, legal monies that are needed, other things. So the report would contain the size of the appropriation needed, if any, to then take the next steps.
Okay. From a financial standpoint, it would be interesting to know what we think we might be able to get from income if someone were to lease the building.
Most likely, you would get a land lease on it. We'd have to do that as part of the study. I wouldn't want to,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to guess on that.
Okay.
If you are to lease it, I will just point out that you'll need special legislation to exceed the normal 10-year lease limit contained in the statutes. That's not impossible. In fact, the old City Hall in Pittsfield was done on a 99-year lease to the local bank. It's pretty common. Well, let me say it's not uncommon.
It's not as good as Guinness. All right,
I understand why they're trying to do. It's a building, they want to save it, historical building. It's in disrepair now. Just looking at some of the expenses in order to get it to be in okay, cost would be pretty expensive for the town. So I think having the select board, I mean, they'd probably have to hire this out to have a consultant do this kind of work for them, but to come back with here are the options and letting the town vote on it would be a good thing, because it is something that the town should have the right to say, because there's a lot of issues in giving up an old building. That whole area where all the library and all the schools are has been, over the last 50 years, been considered, oh, that's school area, that's the town's area, we're not going to let somebody else in there. So, if we're going to change those things, let the town make that decision. So I think this is a process that's fine to do that, and I'd be very interested to see what the select board or their consultant comes up with as an alternative to what we're currently doing.
It would be my intent to have this done, for the most part, in-house. Perhaps some site plan sketches done by a good graphics person, a landscape architect or something. But I'm not sure we'll need to employ a consultant to do the full study.
so this isn't requesting any money associated with that, though?
No.
So you'd
Yes.
have to do it all within
There's
the
no
house?
appropriate, well, we have, each one of us has some funds, either for, grants or expenses in our accounts. I think we can do this in-house for the most part.
All right,
But it's not requesting any money at this point in time. The study would identify if money is needed. If the suggestion is to sell a parcel of land, we're going to have to survey that and identify it. If easements are needed because the road in there is on the school, on the property owned by the town for the schools, those easements are going to have to be prepared so that prospective purchasers know what they're getting. We're going to have to do a good title search, so we know exactly, are there any restrictions? But the report to be delivered at the annual town meeting would and should identify what those costs are, so we can get an appropriation at that point in time if the town meeting decides it wants to proceed.
Is that building occupied at all right now?
It is currently used for what we would refer to as dead storage. It is entered several times during the course of the week. We've instructed the facilities director to make sure there's a clipboard there with all the appropriate slots for the fellas checking the building to initial off, so that we can make sure the insurance company knows that it is in active use for dead storage, and we can avoid the problem of having to put it on a surplus property lines. But dead storage is all it is at this point, and essentially it's going to be mothballed to try to reduce the few operating costs that we do have.
So what are they storing in there?
School department has some records in there, facilities department has some records in there.
So basically paper filings?
Yeah, yep. But again, we'll get you better answers for the 24th.
All right. I mean, I have my own opinions on this house and TC Passios, that their demolition is my preference.
Squirrel matches?
If that thing burns down, I don't want to be blamed,
That
but
that could be the outcome of the report. It says that it's, you know, if the select board comes back and says that it has, you know, whatever, very limited commercial value and the cost to do it would be too expensive, then the town could make the decision that, okay, we're going to just tear it down and plow it over, and, you know, that would be it. I mean, it wouldn't be something that everyone would be excited about, but financially, it might be the best move for the town at this time. We've already tried to sell it for $1 and have somebody move it away. That's already been tried, and that didn't work.
yeah.
Probably not practical or reasonable. But the way housing is, you know, the shortage in housing and real estate is a residential home, it probably has value, even if it needs work.
This is for commercial though, right? Or is it commercial and or residential?
I don't know, how's it zoned?
Well, I think the study would look at all
Yeah.
of that.
It's-
All right.
Yeah, I would not be in favor of leasing it.
Yeah, I guess to some extent, can't the select board just do this anyways? Why do they need a warrant for it? Just to see that the town is actually
They
interested?
could direct us to undertake this under their own authority, but this is when the warrant was open, and I want to remind everybody, the warrant's always open. This was an article submitted by the APDC,
Yeah, okay.
and we worked with them on language to come up with an approach that met their needs and yet met the test of statute in our view also.
Okay. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, great. Article 9,
So this is really sort of the biggest change, set of changes, if you will. Over the few months I've been here and the many months preceding me, there's been a lot of conversation by this community about the challenge in recruiting employees, and to some degree in retaining employees. If you watched the school committee 2 meetings ago, they had a similar conversation in the challenge of filling all of their paraprofessional positions and a number of other positions. And as we've watched the news and read the blurbs on the internet, nationwide, this has been a challenge. This is probably the most challenging job market in my career. So we did a couple of things. One was we held some listening sessions with our employees. I held one at the Public Safety Building for police and fire. And we held one here in Town Hall for the balance of the employees. Those meetings drew about 40 plus or minus people, 40, 45 of our employees attended this. And they shared with us both their concerns, which ranged from they don't like the process they have to go through to get reimbursed for expenses they may have put out, to we need better standard operating procedures so that people that come in can just, sort of grab that manual and work with it, to if they have a part-time employee that works on a holiday but has 2 jobs, can't just switch their day. They're out money that week. So we went through, and we have a report on that. And we also solicited emails, one-on-one conversations, took everything that we heard in those listening sessions and applied experiences in other communities and what we thought was needed in today's marketplace. So the other challenge that we have is the process itself. A couple of the provisions in the current salary administration plan require formal action by the Personnel Committee in an open public session. That adds time to the process as well. Meanwhile, we lose an employee because the time telescopes out about how long it takes us to deal with it. So we're proposing some changes which hopefully will get a full-staffed personnel committee. We don't want to disrespect them in any way. We want to include them in the process. So hopefully we've struck upon an approach which maintains that committee, a role for that committee, and yet shortens up the time and the need for public exposure of potential employees who haven't yet been hired to having their name in public and the like. So the first proposal is to change the name for new personnel to be new personnel compensation and increases, and the increase will come up in a moment. And it would change it such that all employees shall be hired at the minimum of the rate range of the job for which the new employee is hired unless the town manager, after consultation with the chair of the personnel committee, and so I still have to communicate, I've got to pick up the phone, I got to send him an email. The personnel committee chairman can then report to the committee at an upcoming meeting. But it doesn't require this, 72 hours, can you be available, can we do a meeting? You can see how that would help save some time. Authorizes paying the employee at a higher step due to the employee's qualifications and experience or market conditions. Item D is an addition. One of the things that was suggested was a recognition program. So what we've suggested here is a merit award program in which, in addition to any pay increase that someone might get as a step increase, or under their whatever it is, the town manager would solicit nominations from fellow employees, department heads, citizens at large, volunteer committees such as yourself, in one of 3 categories. The first would be communications, displays a commitment to assisting the public in transparency in government, including but not limited to improving and/or devising new ways to communicate information within the organization and to the public at large. The first person to win this award in the community that which this was first introduced was an executive assistant in one of the offices who said, you know, I prepare these packages for my board every 2 weeks, and I send them out. What about if I scanned them and put them on the internet, and then citizens could see them, all the same information the select board gets, other than the confidential materials, they could even follow along during the meeting. Not a bad idea. That was the first award winner. Efficiency displays a commitment to ensuring we operate professionally and efficiently by stepping up and stepping in to undertake nominal cross-training in mission-critical functions. The one folk that won that had their job description revised within that unit so that they learned the critical functions of the building inspector. They were the planning board and Board of Health executive. But we took those functions and broke out the ones, you know, sort of if Andy gets taken out by the bus tomorrow, you know, the elements that must go on, must happen. And we broke those job descriptions apart and put them back together so that different employees in that unit could step in and do the basic critical service to get that agenda posted, get that special permit application stamped in time, get that legal notice out. And the third was Pinnacle of Excellence, displays a willingness to make extraordinary efforts in the ongoing improvement of the organization, assisting other staff members, and you can read that. I'm not going to read that at length. But the person who won that award that year had been given a brand-new department. The building inspector was in one place in the building, the planning board was someplace else, the conservation commission. Everybody was spread around. And we took those different staff and put them into one common area. And the person created what was called the Development and Inspectional Services. So anything related to land use, buildings, use of the buildings, health code, septic, all of those were now in that one unit. And that staff member took on pulling that together and making that a cohesive unit. And it really turned out very, very well. So those are the three. People would nominate folks in one of those three categories. And there would only be one award in each category, and if there weren't sufficient nominations, then the manager would not make an award. It's a nominal amount, $250, and a certificate that goes into their folder. It's often done at whether it's a recognition luncheon or a spring employee hamburgers, hot dogs, and I don't know which vegetarian burger there would be, but I think you get the idea. And it's been very well received where it was introduced. Are there any questions on that particular thought?
No, I think it's a good idea.
The second is recruitment incentives. So right now, someone comes to work for you, they don't get any time, and even if they get some time, they can't use it for 6 months. That can be very challenging. So this would be in a time of extremely low unemployment, a discipline-specific shortage of qualified applicants, or recruitment challenges posed by the town's wage structure. We are not in the upper tier, we're a little bit lower. The town manager could grant someone an initial deposit of 5 days of leave time. We would claw that back as they earned new leave time. But that way, you know, we get a mom, we get a dad, we get a retired person who has a sick child or needs to take someone to the doctors or such, there would be some leave time there for them. And basically what we're doing is front-loading their bank, and then we claw it back over the first number of months. It's a very small incentive, but it's hopeful that that would be a little thing we could put on the table for people.
Why don't we just give them the entire years as a matter of course and just let them earn it throughout the year? That's how it works at my business. January 1st.
Some towns do something like this that I've written it for, and they've done 10 days. I think that the staff thought that, and when I say the staff, a lot of these things have been bounced around a full staff meeting with the department heads there. Thought that 5 days was what we could get through town meeting.
Well, I mean, why don't we just, it kind of says that it's up to the town manager on a case by, why don't we just do it as a matter of course?
I'd be happy to, I'll talk with the select board about that Tuesday night and see what their inclination is. Sure.
I mean, I do think that that's very challenging, that if you are starting a new job, you know, to not have any time off.
It is challenging.
And I have heard that complaint from members of the, you know, of the town, so.
I'll be happy to take up your viewpoint with the select board on Tuesday night.
Okay, and then, you know, I know we don't have a personnel committee, but we did have a personnel committee who put a lot of time and effort into a lot of these things. Has anyone consulted with former members of that committee for their own thoughts on things?
I have not.
Okay,
I can try to find out who they were and reach out to them over the coming few days. I don't have any familiarity with who they were, or how to contact them, but I can do that on Tuesday, Chris.
it may be just an idea, because they thought through a lot of this stuff, I think,
Sure.
through over the years, and would have a good pulse.
I will, I'll do that on Tuesday. I'll reach out to those I can.
Okay,
The next item is we've had a strong request from the part-time employees to receive pro rata vacation, holiday, and sick leave. So this would provide pro rata vacation to all employees except those in a classification of intermittent or seasonal. Now, we do have a change to the definition of intermittent that we will show you when we get to that. And I have calculated, I don't want to sugarcoat this, this will have a lost time impact upon the town. We have to weigh that lost time impact against trying to recruit and retain people. That's going to become a judgment call. That can't be done quantitatively. That's really going to be done subjectively and qualitatively, if you will. There are no changes on the next page. The next change is on top of page, the next page of paragraph G. And what this says is that all employees, except those in a classification of intermittent or seasonal, will receive paid vacation in accordance with the schedule above. Provided, however, that the town manager may award a new employee a higher accrual of vacation leave in recognition of the employee's qualifications and experience and market conditions, but it can't be more than 3 weeks. So let me share with you the challenge. This actually worked well for me in one community where I did not lose somebody. And I'll give you an example. I had a Board of Health agent who'd been with the town that I was managing at the time for 5 weeks, or for 5 to the point where he had earned 5 weeks of vacation leave. He had an opportunity to go another town, larger town, more pay, nicer digs. And then they told him he had to start at the bottom and a week's vacation in year 1, and in year 2 he could get 2 weeks. And he says, I'm not leaving my job for, no. Can you do something for me? And they said, nope, that's the bylaw. We have a land use director we just hired with 25 years of experience in exactly the job we hired him for in municipalities. It is challenging to hire people that way. So what we would be able to do is say to somebody, okay, you have 12 years, you're getting 4 weeks of vacation right now, I can't do that, but I can get you 3, and I can put you at this point where you will now accrue time, and by the time you've been here 3 years or 4 years, you'll be back to where you were. Or, we'd apply that scale depending upon how long they'd actually been in their job and was it discipline specific. This would help address the challenge in recruiting seasoned professionals. There's no real cost to this one, if you will.
So the only issue I would see is that this gets voted in and someone who just got hired last year is like, well, what about me?
Yeah,
Right? There could be some real resentment factor associated with that.
Someone's already in the position.
yep, that unfortunately can happen whenever you change the rules. There's always somebody that's, not always, often someone who's on one side of the rule and somebody on the other side of the rule. Automotive industry, if you were hired before X under the union contract, you got paid at the old rates. New hires got paid at the new rates. It is a challenge. I can say in my time with you and for a one-year look back, I'm not sure that this would have been problematic because there is one of the positions that by statute you were able to contract, so that person got 3 weeks because you could contract with them. I'm not sure how to work our way around it other than to recognize someone could potentially say, well, wait a minute, I got hired 3 years ago and I had to start at the bottom and
It's
can't-
never,
we
if it's
can't
a
make
good idea,
everything-
it's never, as management, you have to do what's right for the long term of the organization. If this is the right thing for the organization, that's the cost you pay, is that there's going to be someone who 2 years ago was hired and going to be looking back, and, that's a management thing. You talk to that person and say, I understand that, I totally understand, but, this is why we're doing it now, and please understand that's how we're doing it. It's a discussion that you have on a case-by-case basis, but if it's a good thing to do for the organization, then you do it, and you deal with the negatives, the cons of it, on a case-by-case basis. So I do agree that you probably will have somebody that's the what about me kind of thing. Why didn't I get that? Well, that's just the way it is.
yeah.
That's life is like that. I bought my house 20 years ago. Why did I get it so cheap versus somebody who's buying it today? Well, that's just the way it is. Everything's like that.
So this would not give you the ability, if someone was thinking of leaving the town, the flexibility to say, hey, what if I gave you an extra week?
I'm frankly not sure I would want that flexibility. I mean, if somebody wants to leave you, you talk with them about why, what might change, what conditions might improve. But I'm not sure you necessarily want to get into bargaining. That really becomes a what about me,
I I just see those, I mean, we have a lot of new employees that are gonna feel that, hey, this got put in.
I'm not sure you have as many new employees as you think you may have. There's been a lot of conversation about churn within the organization, but if you sit here and look at the roster, you know, how long's Mr. Bernard been with you now? How long's Chris Ruth been with you now? Ms. McQuaid's been here almost a year now. Time has moved on, and I think that to a great deal, it's not quite what some people have thought it was in terms of turnover. I won't deny it's challenging, but I'm not sure you've had quite the churn that some folks think you have.
Have you talked to the management level here about, your direct reports now? About
These
and how do they-
proposed changes were actually circulated to over 80. Before we circulated this, we collected all of our notes, we distributed that to the select board in a weekly report, we discussed that within town department heads, talked about should it be this, should it be that, did get feedback, and then circulated the vast majority of these, other than some minor tweaking here and there after town council reviewed them, to 80-plus employees and solicited any comments from them. We did get one set of comments, which we're addressing now, but we did not receive any other comments, negative or positive, from that distribution list of roughly 80 employees. We are trying to be as inclusive and collaborative as we can be, while recognizing at the end of the day, it is my name that has to go on the memo, and we are management.
Right.
And if there are some thoughts about how we handle prior employees, just feel free to shoot me an email individually over the next few days, and we'll take a squint at it. Any other questions on that section?
No.
The next one is that all persons employed by the town, except those in a classification of intermittent or seasonal, would now receive holiday pay for the holiday they were regularly scheduled to work for the number of hours they were regularly scheduled to work. There is a prohibition against them or a supervisor changing the day that they work. So if it's a Monday holiday, but they don't regularly work Mondays, no, you can't change the schedule to now be on the schedule for Monday so you can get paid for the holiday. Or if you work Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, but the holiday falls on Tuesday, you can't change your schedule from Wednesday to Tuesday to get paid for the holiday. The other thing is, you can't change your day to have extra pay. So if it's 19 hours during the week, you're going to get 19 hours. You can't say, well, normally I work on Monday, but that was a holiday, so I'll come in on Tuesday and then get holiday pay plus that. So there is some loss of time and some productivity, but we do have to measure the goodwill of our employees, what we think is a fairness issue against that loss of hours. And we can talk to you about all of those hours if you like, once we get through all of the items. The floating holiday that all regular employees get and part-time, would now become called part-time B employees for benefits. The part-time A employees, those who work less than 20 hours a week, would not be eligible for the floating holiday. So it would be those that are established by name in the SAP. We would extend sick leave on a proportional basis to the regularly scheduled employees as well. And we would add a provision for a town-wide sick leave bank. There is no sick leave bank at present. There are some one-off circumstances in which a department perhaps has someone that is in need of additional sick leave, and they get permission, I guess in a one-off situation from the town manager, yeah, okay, fine, everybody else can throw in some sick leave time that they have. The idea is to remove it from being one-off situations and to set it up town-wide. So you would join the bank with an initial contribution. I don't know exactly what that would be right now, because this gives the select board the authority to establish all the rules of the game, if you will, by policy. And then once a year after that, you would contribute some more. And if the bank doesn't, you could be eligible for 20 days and then a subsequent 20 days most likely. And then if the bank were to run out of time, there'd be a voluntary call for all employees could contribute whether they were members or not. So you could only draw if you're a member of the sick leave bank, but anybody can contribute on a call situation. This now removes it from being one-off and what I would refer to as potential favoritism into a singular codified sick leave bank for all employees. So the potential cost to the town is if someone who has sick time and is not using it contributes to someone who doesn't have sick time and would go unpaid. The select board would have approximately 7 months for the staff to submit a draft policy in consultation with the personnel committee if that gets fully restaffed, and then review it and adopt it.
Just related to sick leave in general, because I see we pay out sick leave at the time of retirement.
Yeah, there's a formula that you have.
Does the town have like a, do they calculate how much we owe for sick leave?
We're required to calculate how much we potentially owe, and to account for that on the balance sheet in our accounts. I don't know how much that's valued at right now. Some towns actually have an account for it and seed it with actual appropriations. Others just calculate the amount and then carry it on their accounts. I'd have to ask Ezzy what your practice is here, but I believe you just calculate it and put it on the account.
I'd be interested in seeing what that balance calculation comes out to.
That would have to be as of FY '23.
Whenever it is,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just looking for the ballpark of it. And that's probably the same in most of our bargaining units, is that?
Yes.
So I'm assuming that's fairly high.
I'd have to look at what the formulas were.
Okay.
But again, we'll have that for you for the 24th.
I don't know if I need it for the 24th, but.
We'll get it for you.
Okay, all right.
Definitions. The definitions change so that the part-time employee A now becomes those people who work fewer than 20 hours a week. Part-time employee B benefits comes from those who work more than 20 hours per week. As you know, the statute defines an employee for the purpose of health insurance, retirement, and other benefits as someone who works 20 hours a week or more. So our part-time employee A would not be eligible for retirement, health insurance, none of that. It's only part-time B employees. We've also made a suggested change to the definition of intermittent employee. That had previously been meant to someone who worked less than 20 hours a week, but our thought was that that really isn't what intermittent means in the normal usage of the word. So we've changed it to be someone who works on an irregular or occasional basis without a prearranged schedule and is compensated only for the time they work. And then the vacation and sick leave formula and the seasonal employees remain all the same. The balance of those definitions remain all the same. Finally is the proposed addition to the code of Chapter 70, Section 30, which would be employment contracts. Right now, the statute has a wide range of people you can contract with. Police chiefs, fire chiefs, finance people, assessors, treasurer collectors, accountants, town managers, and that's where it ends. You can't give a contract to a land use director, DPW director, building inspector, under the specifically authorized statutes. This would add a provision to your local bylaws that would now allow you to enter into those kinds of employment contracts.
Who, just explain again, like, who would be, could it be anyone, or like what?
No, it's basically department heads, land use director, DPW director, council on aging director if need be. And the maximum is 3 years, and the contract has to be approved by the select board.
All right, I'll have to read it.
And that really goes to the why me, what about me, because you have a finance person that enters and you can give them a contract for 3 years, but you have a land use director that comes in and you can't. You have a assessor who comes in and you can give them a contract, but right now you can't give a contract to your DPW director. So this would now put department heads on a level field across the board.
So this would be for let's say, somebody who is a manager type, and within the guides that have already set up the grade that they're in or whatever, and their benefit package that the town is agreeing, as we just talked about, the sick leave and all that. So what would be in the contract beyond that? Would it be bonuses or what?
Termination without cause,
Right, okay, so they,
performance standards. You can move to a merit pay increase system as opposed to steps. So I've had situations in which I've had department heads earn 12% and 0%. So it's more of a management approach than it is a test of, I don't want to be disrespectful to the SAP in any fashion, but I think right now we're, in some of our positions, we're on more of a pay increase for longevity as opposed to pay increase for performance. And I like all your department heads. I think they're great people. I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but I think this moves us to more of a management approach. And it moves us to 3-year terms, as opposed to employment for life, dismissal for cause only.
I guess my initial reaction is that I'm in agreement with you. I'll have to maybe think about it and,
It is giving the town manager a great deal of power, authority. They do have the select board who gets to kind of ratify it, but it does, gives them more control over the direct reports that they have. These would probably be all direct reports for the town manager. So they could incent them to, I really want to get this done over the next 3 years because we need to get it done, so, you know, you're going to get a big salary increase if you do that. Or
my-
you're going to
my-
get this or that or whatever.
My director, who took that one department and really smashed everything all together that I spoke of, I think they got a 6% pay raise that year. Another director who didn't meet performance standards at all got a 0. They weren't very happy. The good news was they were still employed.
Right.
There's pluses and minuses to it, but I think that it moves us to more of a management approach in terms of pay raises and expectations.
where do we define where the department heads are? I'm not looking for a definition of department head, but where is it codified? Who are department heads? Like, what's to stop a town manager saying, like, I want a party department head? You know, I'm gonna hire I mean, I'm just making up like,
Sure, sure. I mean, I thought they're pretty well laid out in your charter,
everything is
in
in the
your
charter?
bylaws.
Okay.
The difference being the ability of the town manager to submit a reorganization plan first to the select board, and then after a series of hearings to the town meeting. Recently, when you did the consolidation for, I think, the land use director,
The most recent director I remember is facilities director being added, and
Okay.
I only remember establishing a line item in the budget. Did we do anything in the charter or bylaw or anything that said that Chris's role is now a department head?
Well, that's a good question. I guess that it does say for all department heads, what's, you know, as long as somewhere there's a definition of those people, if there's, and it's defined and not at the whim of the town manager, then that would be a better.
let me just say that nothing is at the whim of the town manager, because that contract has to be submitted to the select board for ratification. In fact, every employee in town, right down to the seasonal laborer who's going to help mow the grass, has to be submitted to the select board for ratification.
So, just, there are some folks in town who believe there's been a lot of consolidation of power to the select board and the town manager. Okay? That's just it's an opinion shared by a lot of folks in town. So I just want to kind of think through that. Are we
Sure.
further consolidating power into those offices? I think it might be a good idea, but I just want to,
Absolutely. I mean, you need to make your judgment calls.
just where's the checks and balances on things, right? I always believe in, we're set up as checks and balances, right?
The town manager appoints a police chief and can execute a contract. Has to be submitted to the select board. Fire chief. Finance director. A number of those are already, by statute, with or without a charter,
Yeah,
under the authority of the select board.
okay.
I'm not sure what the local issues would be, and I'd prefer to stay aloof from all of it if I might.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. Any other questions on that?
So the next one may actually move. I just now realized that normally I group the acceptance of state statutes together. So this one may move, and you may see at your public hearing, same number of articles, but a mild renumbering.
Are you moving on to 11?
I am, unless there's
Okay.
other questions on
Yeah,
that.
let me just, I know we did ask some questions along the way. Are there any other questions related to Article 10? There's a lot in there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's a lot to review in that one.
And I'm sure, Jay, you've heard a lot about some of these issues over the dining room table over the years, so I'm interested in your opinions as we go into,
I do want to be upfront, there will be a loss of hours on the job if we adopt these benefits for our part-time employees who are working less than 20 hours a week. And you'll have to weigh in your own minds whether or not you think that loss of time on the computer keyboard is offset by a better recruitment atmosphere and a better morale within the workforce.
sure.
Personally, I think it is, but that's why you all are here, is to apply your thought processes to the costs of what we propose and the methods that we propose.
Yeah. There's some companies that are going to unlimited paid time off.
I would
I mean, I'm not,
frankly kill, I'm not sure about unlimited, but a single PTO system, oh, please. The simplification of the record keeping under that approach is just so much easier than trying to calculate personal time, sick leave, vacation time. A single PTO number,
I would be highly in favor of moving to a single PTO for the town, if, for no other reason than the liability that comes at the end of the accrual of all this sick time and stuff.
yeah.
Give them more PTO along the way, let them manage whether they're sick or not.
Well,
or
what that
anything
also does, just, I don't want to get off too much on the subject here, but what that also does is that for our younger employees who perhaps are in better health, but have families, younger kids and such, and are going to come to work for us with only a week or 2 weeks vacation, well, they've also earned some, what would have been sick time under the old system. Now they have more time for PTO, and they're in good health, and they feel, okay, I can take that 3-week vacation in the middle of the summer. And on the other side of it, perhaps folks that are, well, I'm 74, so what can I say? Starting to age out, you know, and you got to go get the knee replaced, you got to do this, and you got to do that. But I don't need to take a 3-week vacation because it's the summer and the kids have to go someplace. You know, so it provides much more flexibility across a wider range of employee. And it's so much simpler for payroll because you just, it's so many hours every pay period, end of story, one bank.
Yeah, and I know that's not what this article is about, but I do think that some serious consideration should be going
Yeah.
towards that kind of,
Any other questions on the SAP? I know there could be quite a bit in there.
okay. I don't see any other. All right, thank you.
So Article 11, I'm going to kind of put in the bucket of the Parks Revolving Fund. The state statute that you've adopted allows certain exemptions for elderly and others. And there were statutory limits when you adopted those. Over time, town meeting has increased those limits. But you never adopted the provisions of statute that let you do that. So there are 3 specific provisions of statute that let you do what you've been doing. This article would now correct that, and in the next fiscal year, going forward, you'll be able to start those increases again. You currently have 21 people making use of these programs. 2 of them will not be able to get this benefit for this fiscal year. It's unfortunate. The good news for them is no one's going to try to claw back previously granted exemptions. What happened, happened. But going forward, upon adoption of these statutes, and we did an exhaustive search, and many thanks to your town clerk for digging through the records in conjunction with the assessor. Also, the Department of Revenue maintains a data bank of all sections of statute that have been adopted by cities and towns. They have no record of it being adopted either. So this will correct that.
Okay. Any
Article,
questions?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Any questions on that one?
We can have the assessor at your public hearing if you'd like. You let us know who you want there, and we'll have them there for you.
Do you think we need, would you like them?
Oh, like I said, yeah, I'd like an explanation what
Yeah,
is this doing.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Article 12, we've had a request for the chair of the Budget Task Force and the chair of the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee to make a verbal report. The meeting would have to vote as to whether or not to allow them to do that. I'm told those would be less than 10 minutes apiece. Article 13,
You've never been to our town meetings.
I'm sorry?
You've never been to our town meetings.
I'm only reporting what I've been told.
All right.
I make no judgment on the veracity of it. Article 13 is Marshall Park improvements. I really can't speak to it. I believe the Park Commission has asked you to be able to make a presentation to you or to the meeting, or?
They're going to come on the 24th.
Okay. Okay.
And they were meeting tonight as well on this.
So I leave that to them. Article 14 is a citizen petition. I'm assuming that if Article 13 passes, that it'll be passed over.
I would agree. All right, any questions on 13 or 14 or anything that you want to give heads up to Anita that you'd be looking for associated with these? All right.
$5 million.
5 million is the, yep, is what is in there.
They want to borrow $5 million.
Yep.
Article 13 has been reviewed for bond counsel, by bond counsel, so it is at least, correct.
Right.
This warrant is now, I've made a few notes, I've caught a typo or a formatting issue as we walk through it here. It is with our town council for a final squint. He's been through it twice. We've been through it with Labor Council on the SAP changes. This will go before the Select Board for a vote on Tuesday evening, and I'm assuming from what I heard earlier that with respect to the Finance Committee recommendation, they will all be made at town meeting.
We'll do it beforehand and then.
But in terms of printing this booklet?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
yep, yep.
Just in terms of the booklet, if anyone's looking to save money, I did suggest to the Budget Task Force you consider a amendment to your charter, which would allow us to mail out a postcard, that this booklet's now available online. and physically, here, the library and such, it would save you several $1,000s a year. And today, many people go to the internet for their information.
Right.
Not everybody,
But it would be,
Not everyone, but many.
not everybody.
What we've done in some communities, when we've transitioned away from a program, for instance, in one community, the city actually went into your backyard and picked up your garbage cans and took them to the curb for you. 13 employees were paid to do that. And they did away with it, but what they did was for folks with a mobility issue, they could make an application, and we kept one person on staff who took care of those folks. We could have a similar issue where folks that don't have internet or have mobility issues could make a request, and we could mail it to them. Mailing 100 as opposed to mailing a couple thousand does have potential. The other thing that it does is it lets us bring down the timeline, give us a little more time, because we don't have to have the booklet off to the printer. We don't have many things we have to do. So it's something to think about.
all right, you said that was a charter change, though?
It would require a charter change. The requirement to mail them out and to have it happen so far in advance of the meeting is in your charter.
Okay. And I know at least one former member who's on the screen is in favor of a charter review, so I'll put that plug in for him.
But has he been to the Cider House restaurant yet? We'd have to ask him.
All right, any final questions for Carter? I think this was a good overview. And we will have another shot at this in 2 weeks to review and have public hearing and,
So if there are some finance terms you would like in the booklet, let me know. If you don't have any, but you would like me to draft some, let me know. If you have any additional questions, or you have, I've tried to make some notes here, or you have specific people you would like to be present for the 24th, just let us know.
okay.
And even once you have all your recommendations done, we'll make sure they get up on the website as quickly as possible.
So the question on, maybe this was talked about at the last meeting, the financial terms, I think Carter's prior booklets had financial terms associated with it. I don't recall if ours do. Like, what does it mean for a revolving account? What is a, this, that, or the other? Yeah,
What's overlay, what's free cash? Some basic terms. If you want to, I don't know if you use them or not. I don't know.
we do, and I'm not sure everyone understands them. I mean, most people don't even understand Prop 2.5, as you're probably aware. But I mean, I think if you pick out the ones that are in here and just give them a definition for this round, that would probably be beneficial.
I'll run it by you.
I
comment?
would, yeah, I would ask you to do that if you,
Okay. I am on fairly short turnaround. I know you're busy,
yeah,
but I'll try to get you something by Tuesday.
okay, I'm good with whatever you put in
Okay.
there for them, quite honestly,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't want to step out of bounds.
I mean, you guys good with that too? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the more information
yeah.
to the community, the better.
Do you like the
Speaking the
summary
same language.
approach that we've included? Is that something you normally do, or
Yeah, we do not normally have a summary.
do you like that approach?
I would also say it's worth considering not printing the entire article, planning board article, and, because it has been in there 3 times already, and just summarizing.
I'll ask the select board
They'll make
Tuesday,
the
because there are a lot of
determination.
towns that just print the headings and then let somebody know where they can get the full printout, because I think it's 5 or 6 pages.
Yeah, I do think all the salary and amendments, Article 9 is probably worth printing as is, just because that is a new,
Yeah, we started out by just including the paragraphs that were going to have changes and be added, and then people were, well, what, so we realized we had to include the bulk of it for people to really see what was happening.
sure. Yep. Okay.
Is there anything else we can do for you tonight?
Tonight, no. Any, no, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Have a good evening, gents, and a nice holiday weekend.
Okay, old business, I don't know if you guys all have the agenda. It includes budget presentation template,
Yeah.
MART grant, split tax rate discussion. Any interest in discussing any of those? Okay, town manager search committee update. We met on Monday. The town manager requisition was posted to the MMA. There's a link from the MMA to a 4-page, I thought it was a really good overview of Lunenburg and the positions and expectations and stuff like that. I think the group did a great job on pulling that together. We had only minor at best comments associated with that. We're going to meet, I'm going to forget my dates, but resumes are due on, I think, the 8th of November. We're going to meet a couple weeks after that. Everything from here on out will be done in executive session to whittle that list down to who the screening committee wants to meet with. And then in early December, we will have the screening committee's interviews of those candidates to provide the list that goes on to the select board for their interviews. The only names that will ever come out of that process are the ones that go to the select board. So we're targeting probably like 6 or so that will go to the screening committee interviews, and 3 or so is the sweet spot on going to the select board. So I think on target to have the select board interviews hopefully late December, early January, and then have a town manager in January. I think there might be a gap in there, and it's going to be interesting with budget season. I mean, the person's going to come on, and Carter's going to have to, and our charter does limit, I think, to 6 months. So I do think a recommendation coming out of this is, we got this committee together and we kind of stumbled a little bit on how to do things. We probably need to write down what our recommendations are for the next time a committee like this comes in play. For example, this consultant has been fabulous. I think that should just be standard course that we, upon hearing that a town manager is stepping down, we hire a consultant and we establish the board so that we don't lose that time. But those are my thoughts at this point, not the committee's, so. All right, any questions on that?
When's the deadline for submittal? The
Isn't it-
resumes?
Oh, November 8th, I think.
November 8th.
Yep, yeah. I think it was the 8th, yeah.
Sounds like you're moving right along. That's good. That's really,
So 4 weeks.
Yep, I think it was like 4 weeks, yeah. All right, Budget Task Force, I guess, Jean, you're the alternate, right, for the Budget Task Force? Do you have anything related to that?
No, I wasn't able to do the Zoom meeting, so I'm going to look on YouTube, and then I can update next week.
Okay. All right, yep. Okay, thank you. I don't, grant writing services, I don't think we have any need to talk on that.
That was something Evan was working on. He was going to contact a company regarding that.
Okay,
Also, yeah, the budget presentation template, we went over that in the last meeting. I don't know if we got a final sample from Evan.
I have not had any conversations with Evan. I've reached out to him a couple times, but I have not had the chance to talk with him. So if anyone has anything on that, let me know where it is. I did miss that last meeting.
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
Okay, I'll try to get to Evan again. On consolidation of services and departments, you know, for consideration, you know, the school facilities director has resigned. If there's ever a time for consolidation of services, I think facilities is the one we've always talked about. I think the school committee may have already posted a requisition on that, but I would highly encourage thinking about a single facilities director across both.
Is that a charter change? Does that require a charter change?
I would assume that the schools the charter probably does not call out the facilities director in the schools, so, and I don't think we did a charter change when we established the facility, you know,
Yeah,
director on the municipal side, so, I mean, we don't have a real say in it, but I do think that there's efficiencies in that, and I think, I don't know, to me, it would be a good move for the town, but. Okay, minutes, I did not get a chance to see where we are on minutes. I'll have to get that. I did have a note from Dave from when he was still on the commission of an update to the September 11th or something minutes, so I passed those on for inclusion.
Mr. Chair, can I make one comment? I think I gave you the wrong date. I think that was actually the August 28th meeting. I was looking at that, August 22nd meeting, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm sure
Danielle, I'm a little confused.
okay, I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. All right, committee reports. Let me just go around the horn. Jean, any committee reports?
No.
Okay. Tom?
I attended a Zoom meeting on Project 211, which I'm not sure, it was run by a regional school committee group, but I think our representative, Scarsdale, was part of it. She gave the opening speech. And Project 211 is 211 of the 300 and something districts are getting the hold harmless amount of money on Chapter 70, as we are in town. And basically what I got out of the meeting was that the way they calculate Chapter 70, which the people on this committee has seen, and maybe many people in town have seen various different presentations, it's a bunch of formulas, and they explained that it was created in 1992, and it was probably good back then, but it's not good now. And one of the things that's hurting towns like us and regional areas is that the enrollment of students has shrunk. Even though we're growing as a town, our enrollment's probably going down, and many others are. And it's, the state basically gives you more credit, more money, the better you're run, the more perfect you are as a town. So you need X number of students per school, and this and that, and if you don't meet those criteria, you don't get as much money. And because all the towns are not meeting some of those requirements, they're not getting them. So what they want to do is to go back and look at those calculations. And I think as our chairman, our new chairman, has talked about over the years, that these calculations are old and they should be redone and should be looked at the way things are now. And you should, the intent is to give more money or to encourage local districts to do the right things, whatever that right things are, and to discourage them from not doing the right things, and rewarding them with more money if they do the right things. So that is still what they want to do, but they just want to change the formulas around. It's not clear to me how that will work and how that will, if that's even possible. But if 211 of the 316 or whatever the number is, 61 districts are just getting the bare minimum increase every year, there's probably an appetite for it statewide. So I think that's a good, I'm on the list, so I don't know if other people will get invited to these, but I will continue to go to them, and I'll let anybody who wants to know about them, I'll pass on their email address so that they can get it too. It's, I didn't participate other than listen to it, but it was a education and a good sign that at least some people are listening to towns like us, because there are a lot of towns like us.
Okay, thank you. Did municipal design meet?
I was away and then unavailable for a while. I think there was some meetings, but I couldn't attend it.
Okay.
I did see a couple of emails back and forth between our chairman and, but I didn't really.
Were they going over the RFP?
I think that was a lot of what that was discussed, but I really didn't have a lot. I was very busy with other things and I couldn't do it, but I just kind of glanced over a couple of letters. I can, I did let our chairman of that committee know, because I missed a couple of meetings, that, and 'cause I just wasn't available, that I am available, and so if there are other meetings, I hopefully will be invited to those, because I do want to keep the finance committee informed of what's going on there, and also, have some input on it too.
Well, and it says there's going to be a report at this meeting.
Right, yeah.
So-
I know our chairman has been asked, been wanting to do that. He wanted to do that last year, and at the annual meeting, but he couldn't make it. So I think maybe this is, I don't know. When I saw that, I wasn't surprised to see it, but I'm not sure what the expectation is. I can find out more.
Okay.
And make-
All right, Dave, did you have any? Dave. Jay.
I watched, with the sewer commission the other day on the video, whoever the business manager they hired only lasted like a week and left. They've interviewed the DPW director, and some of the commission members interviewed a second person who they liked, and I think they were going to check references, and then the next meeting make a decision if they're going to offer a job or not. So, and they're still looking for an assistant to the sewer business manager, but they want to hire the sewer business manager first.
Okay. All right, and then, so for mine, we also had capital planning last night, and the police came in with theirs. The primary things are police cruisers this year. I think next year there was radios. And then the only other thing is they are looking for additional space, which would be in the facilities budget, but on that second floor, additional office space. And I think they've talked about that in the past, at least at capital planning. I forget if they've talked about it here.
Is that unfinished now? Is it the second floor, is that?
It's like partially finished. It was described as being like 3/4 finished, but they would need like drop ceilings and some cubicles set up and something like that, so we'll see when Chris does his, we'll see that. I mentioned earlier, Parks is meeting tonight to finalize the warrant article that they originally had wanted to have at the Springtown meeting, but Heather was too kind of busy, I think, with other issues at the time, so it got pushed off. And I think that's all I had. Let's see, what's next? Topics for future meetings. Is there anything pressing on anyone's mind other than the next couple meetings focusing on special town meeting?
I think that's job one for the next, until the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. There was some dates in here, MMA Annual Town Finance Committee Annual Meeting on 11/2, if anyone wants to go. It is reimbursable. Special town meeting on the 12th at 7. I know I had thrown out there in the email the potential of meeting next week, but seeing as we got this week's in, I'd recommend that we just hold to the 24th with the 7th if necessary. So our next meeting would be on the 24th. All right, public comment. Is there any public comment from the public? Dave?
Hey, Chris. Yes, a couple of things. I'm pretty excited about what's being brought forward at town meeting, through the budget season last year and going into special town meeting, going into Springtown meeting and the issues that were starting to come out with the employees and their benefits and all of that. Many of us made the comment that we were still in the 18th century with those benefits, and it's exciting to hear what's being done already. And your comment about PTO, I think, is very appropriate. The whole rest of the world operates on a PTO process, and it's much simpler and I believe much fairer. So exciting to hear that. One thing I would like you guys to consider at some point here in the near future, I was the liaison to the DPW, and I think it's important that you get somebody on board to communicate with the DPW director, especially as you're heading into the winter months, so that you're aware of challenges as they come forward with that department. I think that's about it for me for this evening. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dave. All right, I don't see any other public. Any public comment from the committee? I'll go around the horn maybe. Jean, any public comment?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
No. Jay?
So we have 3 vacancies.
We do have 3 vacancies. So hopefully we get one filled next week. There is a appointment meeting for that, I think on Tuesday. So maybe next time we'll have at least 5, but then even if that happens, we will have 2. And if anyone wants to come out of retirement, that's been on this board before, that would even be a bigger bonus, right? So, and I do not have any public comment. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call, Jean,
Why?
Tom,
Aye.
Jay,
Aye.
and I for myself, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.